So it looks like Penny is joining us for the chapter 1 reading. This is the first week we're going to be reading the actual published book. Last week's video I kind of explained a little bit about how this book came to be. It was originally inspired by this charm that I received when I was little. I wrote chapter 1 when I was about 13 years old. And then when I was 19, challenged myself to complete the book in under a year, which I did. And now at 30, I'm publishing and I'm starting every week to read a chapter at a time to make the book more accessible. So here it goes. The prologue. High school was never that exciting, but it also wasn't that easy. Still, I miss it when it was the most stressful part of my life. If I could go back to agonizing over final exams, navigating the balance between homework and extracurriculars, rereading the thousands of books we were forced to dissect but could never truly understand, and exaggerating how many books I actually read, I would. I used to resent teachers for acting like their class was the only one, as if we didn't have 6 others demanding the same time and energy. But these days, I'm jealous of their ignorance. The worst thing I used to break was my routine. Now, I've broken rules of reality, of time itself. If I could, even for a day, slip back into the kind of delusion where I believed my problems were the only ones that existed, where the world spun forward like it was supposed to. If I didn't have to look my family in the eye, knowing they knew what I did, what I'd become, I'd go back in a heartbeat. But my story isn't one of naivety, although that's how it starts. Chapter 1. Let's travel back to my senior year of high school, back when I truly believed the most stressful thing I'd ever face was climbing the social ladder. The fragile hierarchy of teens, the kind of system that can make you or break you, and trust me, I was breaking. What's the reward if you manage to climb the rungs without falling? You get to be one of the populars. You get more than the 15 minutes of fame you'd earn from the ultimate attention grabber, the cast. You'd gain the confidence to go out into the world, knowing you are known and respected, that you'd without a doubt be invited to your 10-year reunion and regarded as an honorary guest. Unfortunately for me, I had never broken any bones or missed enough consecutive days to raise concerns among my peers. Not that it would have mattered anyway, because the queen of the school had it out for me. Yes, literally a queen, our homecoming queen. She had discovered that treating her school like a castle allowed her to become whatever she wanted, and that's exactly what Ashley did. Look down, she's headed this way. Maybe if I keep my head low, she won't notice me by hiding behind this tangled bird's nest I call my hair. I really need to find my brush. There's only so much leave-in conditioner can do. Oh, Zoe, Her Royal Highness beckoned. Cover blown. Did you see that the new class rankings have been released? She continued. If you mean the official rankings where students are evaluated based on their grades, then yes, I have. But I'm guessing you're referring to the list that ranks students by how short of a skirt they can get away with. Not gonna lie, I surprised myself with how fast and clean that line came out. Poor thing, resorting to cheap shots to feel better about yourself, she said, narrowing her gaze. Let me let you in on a little secret. Being number 1 keeps my self-esteem rock solid. Not sure what being 372 out of 467 does to yours, though. She placed a hand gently on my shoulder, then cocked her head slightly, as if to show some twisted sense of compassion. Her eyes flickered with something more than anger, something knowing. Maybe in another world we would still be friends. And maybe if her smile was even a little less conniving, I would believe this was the world we were living in. But it wasn't. So she shoved me into a locker. I winced as her palm slammed me back, certain her fake nails gave her a strength mere mortals would never possess. The sound echoed down the hallway, drawing stares, Matt's among them. A couple of weeks ago, we both reached for the water fountain at the same time. Perhaps it was the awkward eye contact, neither of us knowing where to look, or the nervous laugh he gave as he gestured toward the metal heat, offering it to me first. I hadn't even touched the button yet, at least I didn't think I had, but the fountain sputtered to life anyway, water bursting out in one of its rare high-pressure moments, startling me before I even leaned down. Something about that moment had stuck with me, and it seemed like it had stuck with him too. I reached for a padlock, feeling as if it reached back just as eagerly. The metal was cool and solid beneath my fingers, and it steadied me with surprising ease. For a moment, it felt as if the lock pulsed under my touch, but I shook off the thought. Behind me, Ashley's posse, unofficially ranked numbers 3, 5, and 6, laughed idiotically behind as they strolled away. Desiree flipped her blonde hair, abandoning her former brunette look in yet another attempt to stand out, though to me, it made her look like she was trying too hard. Her eyes darted nervously toward Ashley for reassurance, making sure it was okay that she stopped laughing first. Jackie was still rifling through her designer bag for lipstick, and Hannah trailed behind like a graceful ballerina. I don't know where that girl went wrong. Hannah had moved here this year and had already fallen under Ashley's spell, the promise of popularity too tempting. These girls were rude to anyone who wasn't them, conceited, stuck up, and cruel, but admired by all because of the way they carried themselves. They were confident, and that confidence commanded respect. "Hey, are you okay?" The voice I'd started to recognize all too easily broke through my thoughts. Matt. The sole reason Ashley couldn't stand me approached with a compassionate gaze, ranked number 2 in both GPA and popularity, but still number 1 in every girl's heart. "Yeah, I'm fine." My words stumbled almost as badly as my limbs while I tried to pull myself together. "I just lost my balance, that's all." He smiled and looked up at me one last time, holding my gaze a beat too long, like he could see right through me. "All right, I'll see you later." He gave a half wave before slipping both hands into his pockets and trudging off to rejoin his friends. Ryan and Jake leaned into him laughing. After a moment, Ryan glanced back at me, his eyes briefly locking on my grungy shoes before raising a single eyebrow, like he was mentally filing me under work in progress. I slumped to the floor, my back sliding against a set of red lockers. Number 372 had got the attention of the most popular guy in school, and not the stereotypical arrogant kind. He was the sweet, sincere type, the kind with salon quality hair. His deep brown waves shimmered in the light, perfect with every tilt of his head. Honestly, I wasn't convinced it even grew. I was probably too enchanted by his eyes to even dare change his magical appearance. He was also smart enough to see that Ashley was nothing but trouble. She had been hung up on Matt ever since he moved here in 5th grade, so the second she thought he might be even slightly interested in me, I became her next target. But it wasn't the usual mean girl routine. It was almost like she'd been watching me closely for a while now, not just waiting for me to mess up, but expecting it. Every day I stumbled, every awkward moment, she was already there to amplify it, like she knew it was coming. I figured she was bored or possibly threatened. Slowly but surely, Ashley made sure I was noticed, for all the wrong reasons. She'd been working overtime to drive my rankings lower, as if it already wasn't low enough to begin with. Fortunately for her, the only numbers Matt ever cared about were in AP Calculus. Finally, my last and formerly favorite class of the day, Spanish. I used to love this class. It was predictable, low stress, and felt like a break from reality. It was a room filled with stories, songs, and culture, as opposed to numbers and formulas. But that changed last week when Ashley dropped remedial English and had to rearrange her schedule. Suddenly, she was placed in 7th period Spanish, and lucky me, we were now stuck spending the last hour of every weekday together. At first I thought I could handle it, sit in the back, keep my head down, and avoid drawing her attention. But Matt was in the class too. I've been trying to keep my distance from him, thinking that if I backed off, Ashley wouldn't see me as a threat. Hopefully, once she realized I wasn't interested, she'd finally leave me alone. Then I could go back to being unnoticed and happy. Well, not exactly happy, just not miserable. Hola, and welcome to another day of Spanish class. Señor Manuel always spoke slowly so we could understand him, regardless of what language he was using. Every sentence felt like a suspense thriller, stretched out over way too many beats. Today, we are going to start our next major project. I heard from upperclassmen before us that Señor Manuel loved projects. I just hadn't realized he lived for them. I want you to pick any Spanish-speaking country, find out what they are most known for, and turn in a 5-page essay written in Spanish for 10 diez, bonus points, along with a visual aid to show the class what your country is about. The pause hung in the air, making the world feel like time itself had stopped. I want you to work in a equipo, a team of two people. Please, please, please don't pair me with Ashley. You have the rest of clase to find a partner. Find a partner. I can do that. I turned quickly, scanning the room, silently hoping anyone was already looking my way. And choose your country. Buena suerte. Before he finished dragging out the last syllable, Ashley was already up and moving, making a beeline for Matt, who of course was walking directly toward me. Why? I had no idea, but there he was, standing in front of my desk. And there she was, the green-eyed monster, glaring at him from behind. You could practically see the metaphorical smoke pouring from her ears. Hey, it's Zoe, right? Yeah, but you can call me Zoe if you want. It's shorter that way. Nah, I think I like Zoe, he flashed a grin. I'm Matt. I know who you are. Everyone knows you. Nice to meet you, I said coolly. Hey, so I was wondering if you wanted to be partners, he said with a shrug. Could be fun. That'd be nice, I answered. My head was exploding with emotions. Matt asked me to be his partner. I couldn't believe it. And guess who else felt the exact same way? Matt, sorry to interrupt this little conversation, she said, each word dripping with condescension. But I thought we were going to be partners? The pitch of her voice rose at the end, twisting the statement into a question. Matt hesitantly turned around to face her as he let out a sigh. And who made that decision? Speechless. Ashley was actually speechless. Her hand twitched with the crinkle of her nose, then she tossed her hair as she headed back to her desk, turning around for one last spiteful glance before she huffed and took her seat. This was way too much excitement for a Tuesday. So in my book, there's little asterisks that indicate page breaks, so we are moving from Tuesday to Wednesday. The following day, Senor Manuel instructed us to write a 2-page paper on what we had learned last week about Dia de los Muertos. I groaned in symphony with the rest of the class and pulled out my notebook to start on the task at hand. How was I supposed to concentrate on my paper with Ashley constantly looking back over her shoulder to monitor my progress? Isn't there a rule about staring? Someone seriously needs to teach that girl some manners. After what seemed like an eternity, my essay was almost complete and the school day was nearly over. Senor Manuel? A manicured hand shot up in the air, accompanied by the world's most annoying voice. May I please fill up my water bottle? Por favor? Claro que sí, responded a teacher from the back of the class as he graded papers, completely unaware of who he was speaking a foreign language to. Ashley looked around for help, but she had no friends here. The awkward silence consuming the classroom forced Senor Manuel to glance up. Yes, Ashley, you may fill up your water bottle. Ashley made her way to the door, taking extra time to walk by my desk. She lingered, surveying what I'd written, and firmly set the cap of her pen down in the middle of my assignment, like she was claiming it as hers. You spelled ofrenda wrong. My eyes shot to the paper, only to see I had it. Right as I looked down, her pen snapped with a loud crack, too forceful for an accident. Ink bled across the page, swallowing the section I'd been reviewing. Ew, your paper is so messy, and now I don't have a pen, she sulked. That really stinks, doesn't it? Her question was phrased as a statement this time. She continued to hover over me, ignorantly, as if she had no idea how this possibly could have happened. Everyone, todos! Your assignment has been extended to the beginning of our next class, Senor Manuel stepped in. Ashley, please, fill up your water bottle. After skipping out the door and down the hall, Ashley returned and settled back into her chair. She sipped from her water bottle with a freshly completed paper right underneath her. Laughter danced in her eyes as I sat there staring at her perfectly blonde hair and those obnoxious pink nails with little daisies painted on them, wishing that someone would ruin her paper. Something for her. Maybe a pair of scissors would come flying across the room and cut her paper into a million tiny pieces. Maybe acid would leak from the science class above us and burn through the assignment. Maybe her water bottle would spill, smudging the ink and making it impossible to read. And then it happened. Her water bottle exploded. Completely exploded. Not a leak, not a spray, no. Water went all over her and her paper and drenched her hair as she shot out of her desk in rage. Who did this? She squealed. Who was it? She wailed, stomping her foot. My chest tightened. A strange tingle ran down my fingers. From the corner of my eye, I could see Matt's body shift to look at me. He was sitting there, smiling at me, as if I were the one who did this. Had I? No, impossible. But the thought lingered, sharp and unsettling, like I touched something I wasn't supposed to. Why was he looking at me like that? His eyes locked on mine. I tried to focus less on that and more on Ashley, shrieking as though someone had chopped off all her delicately crafted curls while her once perfect eyeliner streaked down her face. Senor Manuel sat dumbfounded at his desk, trying to figure out what had happened, but the silence of disbelief didn't last long. Within seconds, the room exploded, half the class laughing, the other half whispering and staring. A few girls rushed over to fix her makeup, but she swatted them away, too committed to her victimate to let anyone help. Clusters of students leaned into each other, giggling behind cupped hands, while our teacher scrambled to retrieve a roll of paper towels from the locker behind his desk. Through the chaos and quiet satisfaction of having witnessed the best moment of my academic career, I almost didn't feel Matt slip a small piece of paper into the pocket of my jacket. Almost. He winked, then casually made his way to the front to help Senor Manuel clean up the wreckage. Call me when you get home. 332-1514. Matt. Perhaps it was his gaze, or the careful way he'd slipped the note into my jacket. Either way, I was calling him tonight. I had already started programming his number into my phone. By the time Senor Manuel got the class to settle again, the bell rang. I stood up and immediately fell forward, taking a chair down with me. My shoelaces had been tied together. Laughter erupted again. Ashley had somehow bounced back to flawless, her hair and makeup perfectly restored as if nothing had happened. Me? I was face first on the floor. I started to pick myself up when that familiar voice called my name. Hey, Zoe! I turned and Matt was making his way over with an outstretched arm. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine, I responded as I fixed my laces. Thanks. Talk about deja vu, he chuckled. He stretched out his hand further and I willingly grabbed it as he helped me to my feet. Where was my help? Did you forget about what just happened? To me? You didn't even check to make sure I was all right, Ashley pouted. It was water, he said, laughing softly as he shook his head in disbelief. You're fine. With her fists clenched almost as tightly as her teeth, she stormed out of the room, the soles of her shoes thudding with every step. I reluctantly followed, letting a few other students slide in as a buffer before me. I made my turn through the doorway and a familiarly dark and perfectly straight head of hair whipped past me. Hannah wasn't in this class, but she always seemed to be exactly where Ashley needed her own personal shadow waiting for orders. Desiree trailed behind, quieter but still loyal, her eyes scanning the hall. I know that word travels fast in high school, but this was a whole new level. Desiree hesitated, then blurted. Matt's only using you to ace the project, you know. Hannah's eyes locked on mine, wide and searching, like she wanted to say something more. Her mouth opened, but she was cut off as Ashley's laugh echoed from down the hallway. Hannah flinched. She looked away and said nothing. I knew it wasn't true. Matt was smart enough to get a perfect score all on his own. Still, the words hurt. Tears welled in my eyes, but I refused to let the enemy see me this way. I darted to the parking lot, the day's events spiraling through my head. I needed to figure out what was going on. I needed to figure out what to do. But who could I ask for help? Lexi, my sister and best friend, had gone back to college a few months ago. My parents were always working, and the house no longer felt like home. I didn't have anyone. I was alone. Nobody to talk to, nobody who'd understand. I pulled into my driveway and opened the door. I heated up some leftover pizza and took it upstairs to keep me company as I worked on my Spanish essay. As I got to my room, I noticed a brown envelope postmarked a week ago sitting in the middle of my bed. I tried to gently pull the plastic tab, but after a few failed attempts to pick off the adhesive, I gave up and tore it open down the back. A small, pale blue box tumbled out, topped with a neatly folded note held in place by a thin ribbon. I hesitated, then carefully untied the bow and opened the letter, doing my best not to tear the delicate paper. Zoe, I'm so sorry I'm going to miss your birthday again this year. You always loved this when we were kids, so I want you to have it. Remember me when you wear it. Love, Lexi. I gently lifted the lid, eyes staining with tears as I uncovered the miniature heart-shaped box, still strung on the dainty silver chain Lexi had found for it. I tried to open the tiny charm, but it resisted, as if sealed by something stronger than my trembling fingers. I unclasped the back of the chain and fastened it around my neck. There was something about the way the charm caught the light, a gentle pull like it was waiting for me. I pressed my fingers against the charm, mesmerized, not just by the gift, but by everything it meant. Lexi always knew what I needed, even before I knew what I wanted. This gift was no exception. As I pulled out my Spanish notebook to start working on the assignment, my phone buzzed, lighting up the nightstand. My heart pounded as I lurked towards it. I wanted it to be him, but didn't all at the same time. Inching closer, I peered at the glowing screen and saw the only name worth getting butterflies for. It was Matt. So as a little bit of behind the scenes of the published chapter 1, I did want to mention some similarities and then some differences between the original chapter 1, which was read in the last video. The original chapter 1 has a lot of the names the same. Ashley stayed the same, Zoe stayed the same, Matt stayed the same, so did Senor Manuel. I did change Claire and Kate to Desiree and Hannah. Hannah was actually the first person I told when I first was writing the book when I was 19 years old. Hannah I've known my entire life. She's one of my best friends. She was maid of honor in my wedding, and I wanted to kind of thank her for always supporting me, so I made her a character in the book. And then Desiree was also in my wedding. She has been my best friend for quite a few years now, and I wanted to honor her as well, especially since she was one of the first pupils I told whenever I decided to publish the book just a few months ago. So another change in name is Olivia the sister turning into Lexi. This one was a big one for me. I love the name Olivia. I had kept it in the book for so long. But maybe a month or so before publishing, maybe not even that, I was talking to my sister-in-law. I never had an actual biological sister growing up. I grew up with two brothers, one older and one younger. And I always wanted a sister, so I think that's why I wrote the sister in the book, is because that was the sister I always wanted but never had. But my older brother, when he got married, he married this wonderful lady named Lexi, and she has become my sister now. So I wanted to include her as well. The sister I always wanted was the sister that she became. Other similarities are the very, very last sentence in the original chapter 1 was, "It was met." And in this chapter 1, I also kept, "It was met." There are also a lot of other similarities, like the Spanish class, the water bottle exploding, her receiving the charm, her eating pizza before she goes home, her tripping, the hallway scene. Like, there's so many similarities between the chapters. I'm honestly really impressed with 19-year-old me that I was like able to keep so much of it like the same. One of the Easter eggs in this book is actually in chapter 1, and it is Matt's phone number, which is 332-1514. On the flip phones where you have to push like the 1 like 3 times to get to C and stuff like that, 332 spells out DEC for December, okay? And then we have 1514. December 15th, 2014 was when I originally completed the book The Charm, when I was 19, I think maybe 20 by the time, years old. So that's why I put that phone number in there. That was a little Easter egg, kind of just a reminder of when I wrote this book. As we go through the book, after we read the chapter, I will go through and let you know what those things are and why the book is special to me. I hope you enjoyed chapter 1, and I hope you're looking forward to chapter 2. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you can be alerted when the next video comes out. And this book is also available through Amazon as an ebook, paperback, and hardcover. If you want to read ahead of the class, feel free to, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Through the chaos.